Hello, everyone. Following on from the great results we've had for the previous videos for the florin and the half crown, looking back at the history of them, I've been working on a couple of other coins, few ideas, and today it's the turn of the sixpence. So buckle up for a quick look back 200 years or so, and we'll have a closer look at the sixpence itself. So what we'll do is have a quick look at the moment now, more recent issues with that of Elizabeth II, George VI, and George V. And in this case, the George V one is silver, the others are not. Now, as with previous videos, what I'm going to try and do is cover all the reverse designs from each monarch, from Victoria through to Elizabeth. But there are several varieties for quite a few of them, to be honest, which I won't be going through, as the likelihood of actually bagging one on the open market is very, very slim. But, if you're looking for that sort of thing, good luck in your search. Now, sixpences have been around for many hundreds of years, but this video will be starting with, like I say, Queen Victoria. The coins themselves, commonly known as tanners or sixpenny bits, were actually first issued way back in 1551, and they went on to be circulated until 1980. There's a few of us still around that remember these as kids back in the 70s. Now, I won't be reading the text on the coins too often, as they tend to be very, very similar throughout the years, but for reference, Di Grazia is by the grace of God, Rex is king, Regina is queen, Fidef, defender of the faith, Brit Oman of all the Britons, and Indimp is emperor or empress of India. So, let's get stuck in. As we know, Queen Victoria came to the throne in 1837, and as usual, her first coins weren't issued until 1838. Her first sixpence bore what we now call the young head. The designs were by William Wyon and Jean-Baptiste Merlin, with her facing to the left. The reverse was to stay the same, pretty much, with the crown on top and the open wreath with the olive branch on the left and the oak branch on the right. Both of those were tied with a bow at the base, and the date is issue is actually below that. And the value, as you can see, is in the center. The coin was also to remain fairly standard at 2.83 grams in weight, 19 mil in diameter, and composed of 92.5% silver. In this particular year, there were only 1.6 million minted. In 1887, as with many of her coins, the obverse changed mid-year, really, from the young head to the Jubilee head, and along with that change, for only 1 year, came a new reverse. The actual new design, known as the shield reverse, shows the UK coat of arms with the royal crown above, surrounded by a garter and the Latin motto, which I am not going to read because, as many of you know, I kill languages. And obviously, there's the date below that. The shield quadrants themselves actually show 3 lions of England, 1 for Scotland, and the harp for Wales. The physical coin specs stayed the same, but the actual designer changed. Now we have Joseph Edgar Bohm as the obverse designer, whilst retaining the services of Jean-Baptiste Merlin on the reverse. In 1888, the Jubilee obverse remained, but the reverse went back to the design by Merlin from the previous 50-odd years. The designs then stayed the same until the next profile change in 1893, which lasted then until her death in 1901. This was known as the veiled head profile. This new profile of Victoria was by Thomas Brock, but the reverse stayed with Merlin's design, even after 60 years. The coin specs just they still haven't changed. They remain at 2.83 grams, 19 mil, and 92.5% silver. It's now 1902, and we see the arrival of Edward VII. As with all new monarchs comes a new design, and this time the profile was by George William de Sol. The reverse stayed with, yep, you guessed it, Jean-Baptiste Merlin. He must have been making a few quid from all these royalties. Due to Edward's short reign, which ended in 1910, the designs just didn't ever change. From 1911, George V starts to appear on our coins, and again there's a shift in designers. From 1911 to 1927, the obverse design itself was by Bertram McKennell, and the reverse introduced us to a new name, George William de Sol, this time showing a lion on the royal crown with the date divided either side. The main design itself is surrounded by a legend reading Fidef Indimp, Defender of the Faith and Emperor of India, with the word sixpence below that. As with all other coins with silver content, the big change came in 1920, and that was the reduction of the actual amount of silver included, down from 92.5% all the way down to 50%. However, the weight remained at 2.83 grams. This reduction was mainly due to the cost of the recent World War and the subsequent price increase for silver. The same designs with the lower silver content continued until 1927, and in 1928 a new reverse was minted, and this was designed by George Kruger Gray, which shows the 3 sprigs of oak and 6 acorns and 6 leaves, with sixpence at the top left and the year of issue below with an A to the left and a D to the right. This design and the silver content remained standard until the death of George V in 1936. As we know, Edward VIII popped up and then popped off to the States, so George VI was made king. His first sixpence came out in 1937, and whilst retaining the same weights and measures as the later George V coins, the obverse designer changed to Thomas Humphrey Paget, whilst keeping with George Kruger Gray on the reverse. 1946 saw the last silver content in a sixpence, with the coins issued from 1947 now being a mix of copper and nickel. Although there was a change in the metal content, the measurements from 1947 remain the same, 2.83 grams and 19 mil across. Another change that took place in 1949, when the Indimp, the Emperor of India text, was dropped due to India gaining its independence, and also the actual design of the royal cipher was modernised. This was a redesign by the current designer, George Kruger Gray. George VI died in 1952, and for that particular year, the mintage was just over 1 million. The last monarch to have sixpences issued was, of course, Elizabeth II. With her accession to the throne in 1952, her first sixpence didn't get minted until 1953. The obverse we all recognise as the one by Mary Gillick, and the reverse was a joint effort by Cecil Thomas and Edgar Fuller, showing the flowers of each of the four home nations. The 1953 obverse was also the odd one out for her, as it bears the text "Di Gratia Brit Omen Regina," meaning "by the grace of God, Queen of all the Britons." However, this changed from 1954 onwards through to the very last one issued in 1967 to "Di Gratia Regina," meaning "by the grace of God, Queen." In all the time the sixpence has been minted, it never changed weight or size in over 140 years. Over 240 million were issued for the final year, 1967. And that sounds like a lot, but by 1967, decimalisation was starting to be rolled out. And although there were new coins to replace the likes of the florin and the shilling, the sixpence was going to be retained, but given the face value of 2.5 new pence. And it went on to be currency until it was withdrawn in 1980. Don't forget, there are a couple of videos already in this series, and I hope you at least found them remotely interesting. I aim for educational, but that's just the way I try to teach myself sometimes. But just do remember, I'm not an expert. I'm just a collector and a coin enthusiast. So please do consider a thumbs up and a comment, and most of all, do hit that subscribe button, as it'll ensure YouTube offers it out to others, and it'll encourage me to make more videos along this line as well. So until next time, cheers all.